Good morning.
Good
morning. Great reaction. All right. Lively. Would everybody say that you're pretty comfortable in your seats right now? If you were given the option to move, would anybody be compelled to swap seats? Okay, now, what if I were to offer you a can of Coke? I've got 200 more of these backstage. Then would anybody want to swap?
Nope.
Still no. All right, let's up the stakes a little bit. What if I were to offer you $1,000? All right, this is actually an empty envelope, but play along, thank you. Then would people want to swap seats?
$1,000? I'm in the wrong side of the stage. Like, okay, well, obviously we'll take $1,000 to change your seats, yeah? Maybe except for this guy. He's wearing a bow tie, he's rich. But here's the thing. See, when I was a little kid, about 4 to 5 years old, my grandfather, as an attempt to tease me, he came into the dinner and he sat in my booster seat. I was a child. I've never seen a grown-up sitting in the booster seat before, so I started laughing. We had a great time. And eventually, he moved down to his own seat. Dinner continued. But there was something about the way that he moved from one seat to another. That movement was burned in my brain. And now, 30 years later, whenever I see someone moving from one seat to another, that action always brings back that very fond memory of my grandfather. And that is why we want some of you to change seats, just so I can relive that memory. So with that information in mind, would some of you be willing to change seats for me for free? Of course, yeah, thank you, you're very kind. But you don't have to, thank you. But yeah. Oh, give it up for them, they actually changed seats, yeah. But you see, in 45 seconds, we went from not wanting to move seats to wanting to move seats for $1,000 to now want to move seats for free. The way we process information, the way we make decisions, even the way that we judge people based on their impressions, they're ever-changing. And we notice that they're always full of nuance and all the ways that we don't expect. And today, we're going to help you decode this whole process.
Think back to the last big decision that you made. Maybe it was which school to attend. Maybe it was a big purchase. Should you swipe right or swipe left? And ask yourself, why did you make that choice? I'm willing to bet we have a room full of pretty functional answers right now. But now, ask yourself, how much of that decision did you make for emotional reasons, and how much did you make for rational reasons? Just shout out, what percentage do you think was emotional? 90%. I heard a 90, I heard an 80. Somebody said it right away. 90%. This is something that's studied in detail by psychologists, and research has shown that up to 90% of every decision comes down to those emotional factors. 90%. The only thing higher than that is my mortgage rate.
That hurts, huh? I know what's higher than that. This guy's tax bracket. He's rich. But so here's the thing, 90%, that's a lot, right? But somehow, there's the disconnect. Very often when we talk about moving people and change the way they think, we don't realize that 90% is emotional. Ben just pointed out that's the problem that we have, this disconnect. We think it's logical, but it's not. But here today, we're going to tell you how to change these things to have meaningful connection with those that are around us.
Jonathan Haidt, a professor at NYU, has a great analogy about how human brains actually make decisions. He talks about the elephant and the rider. Now, the rider is the rational side of your brain. It deliberates, it considers facts and data. The elephant is your emotional or irrational side. It makes quick decisions on intuition and gut instinct. And who do you think holds the power in this relationship? That's right, it's the elephant, as we just said, up to 90%. But now think about the change you want to see in the world. We just heard about reconciliation. When you are working towards that change, how much of your time and effort are you spending appealing to the rational rider? And how much are you appealing to the emotional elephant? I'm guessing this is somewhere less than 90%. And I know this sounds overwhelming, but there's good news. While humans are irrational, we are predictably irrational. And as I spend my Saturday nights cozied up in bed with a stack of research papers, kind of wish that was a joke, We find that these irrational behaviors fall into three consistent patterns that we call our three basic human truths.
Now, before I move on, I just want to say this. Sometimes it might seem scary that we don't know how to make change. We don't know how to connect with people, right? And I have to say, it's actually easier than you think. It's kind of like learning how to park at Costco. You know, it's scary at first. Everyone's emotional. But with practice, you're going to learn that it's actually very easy to connect with those who are willing to open up their parking spot. So basic human truth number one, people are lazy and they hate change. Yes, we are, and we do. We are wired to prefer stability and predictability. But somehow nowadays, it seems to become very fashionable to say that we love change. We are change makers, disruptors. Be the change you want to see in the world. It's beautiful, isn't it? We don't even want to change seats, right? The reality is over time, humans have evolved to hate change. Because historically, change can mean very dangerous things like getting eaten by a tiger, or even worse, getting your mortgage rate renewed. So how do we bring about real change?
Remember that change comes from the elephant. Don't try to persuade with another slide, another graph, another chart. You have to make the change emotionally charged. Yale professor Deborah Small understood this concept, and she put it to test in the real life. In an appeal for donations, she tried two different messages. The first one talked about the widespread famine and suffering in a region of Africa. She shared facts and statistics of the thousands of people that were at risk of starvation and explained why a large and robust response was needed. The second message told the story of one child, Rokia, a small girl in a rural village. Your donation could help ensure that Rokia was safe and cared for. There were no facts, no statistics, no large-scale need. It was just the story of one child. And in the end, even though that first message painted the picture of a much greater need, it was the story of Rokia that raised way more money. Why? Because it's hard to feel emotional about a statistic. And Rokia's story speaks to the elephant, and it's the elephant that drives action.
So if we are so naturally resistant to change, how do we overcome this? How do we move that elephant? Which comes to our human truth number two. Perceptions can and do change constantly. Remember how the perception of your seat changed when $1,000 was offered, or when you heard about my story of my grandpa? See, our perception is always changing based on our personal experience or external factors. For instance, have you been grocery shopping hungry? That's very dangerous behavior. It happens to the best of us, right? 1 minute, I'm supposed to go down to the grocery store just to get some eggs, and next thing you know, I get hungry, and now I'm looking for parking at Costco. I'm pushing a full cart, I'm eating a hot dog, and now I'm lining up for a free cheese that I can't even pronounce, and I'm lactose intolerant. Perceptions can change based on your personal experience. And sometimes, perceptions also change based on the world around you. You see, something very interesting happens every year during the election cycle in the United States. Every election cycle, researchers ask Democrats and Republicans how they felt about their personal finances at the time of the election. And this is the answer: red for Republican and blue for Democrats. You see two very interesting inflection points where they intersect. Number one, in 2020, when Democrats won the election, all of them said their personal finances was amazing. And then Republicans said the opposite. And of course, 2024 comes along. When Republicans won the election, the whole thing changed in the opposite direction. But if you think about this objectively, nothing's really changed when the question was asked. Right? The policy were not implemented yet. The economy was still the same. The cost of living is still the same. Hot dog is still $1.50 at Costco. But based on whichever political spectrum they're on, the answers really splinter in very, very different ways. How is that possible? It's not. So what's changed? Perceptions changed.
I'd like to try something now, but it needs a little bit of your help, but I promise it'll be easy. In just a second, we're going to put up 2 QR codes. If you are born in the first half of the year, before the end of June, scan the code on the left. If you're from the second half of the year, July onwards, scan the code on the right. This will take you to a form with one question. Do not overthink it. Do not Google it. Just put in the first number that comes to mind. The answer will be a number. So everybody get your phones out. Feeling good? Okay, here we go. I love that view. Everybody lifting perfectly in sync. Early birthdays on the left, late birthdays on the right, please. All right, remember, short answers or quick answers, numbers only. I'm going to come over here and have a look at the real-time results. All right, I'm starting to see some answers come in. This is great. I feel a little bit like a teacher during an exam right now. All right, class, we've got 3 seconds left. 2, 1, and pencils down. Exam is finished. Thank you very much. All right, let's have a look. Group number 1, our early birthdays. You have an average answer, it's still changing, of 385.8. Group 2, you have an average answer of 2,131.5. That is nearly 6 times bigger than group 1. It's a pretty big difference. But here's our secret. Both groups had the same question. How many days in the orbit of Mars? But group number 1 saw a small prime. You were shown the orbit of the Earth. And group number 2 saw a large number, the orbit of Jupiter. In just seconds, that one number drastically changed your perceptions. And it's not because you're irrational, it's because you're human. And being human means that our emotions and our experiences shape our perceptions of the world all the time. Everything from a trivia question about Mars to the brands and the people that we see around us every day.
It is because we're human, Ben just said. It is because we're human. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our third and final human truth. People connect with people. This is the most important one because we can do all these things to break the status quo bias. We can introduce anchoring and priming to change perception, but none of these will create genuine interaction if you don't connect with your audience human to human. And that is why when you heard about my story of my grandfather, you connected with me and willing to move seats for me free of charge when Ben had just offered $1,000. In 2012, Nike's and Adidas, they were battling over the sponsorship rights of the London Olympics. The two companies were submitting very aggressive proposals. But eventually, Adidas edged out and won over the sponsorship rights for $150 million. And what this meant for Adidas is that they could use everything from the Olympics. Their logos, their language, even all the Olympic athletes. They can use them all in their marketing campaign. And they even have exclusive branding rights at the Olympic events themselves. And Nike, on the other hand, was not allowed to use any of this. Now, most of us would think this is going to be a slam dunk for Adidas to increase market share during the Olympics. And most of us will be wrong. You see, Nike did something very extraordinary that year. They deployed a lot of clever marketing strategies, and there was this one ad, one commercial, that really changed the game for Nike and tipped the scale towards Nike's favor. And here it is.
Somehow we've come to believe that greatness is reserved for the chosen few, for the superstars. The truth is, greatness is for all of us. This is not about lowering expectations. It's about raising them for every last one of us. Because greatness is not in one special place. And it is not in one special person. Greatness is wherever somebody is trying to find it.
But I talked about greatness is in all of us. And every time we watch this, we get goosebumps every time. And you know that amazing feeling we all kind of just felt? Everybody felt it in 2012. And when that Olympic flame was extinguished at the end of the event, Here's what the two companies were left with. Adidas had 12,000 tweets, 9,000 tweets, 12,000 new followers, and about 24% of the survey respondents knew that Adidas was the official sponsor, and it cost them about $150 in sponsorship rights. $150 million in sponsorship rights. 150, I'll pay for that myself. But get this, after all these clever commercials and marketing tactics and that ad, Nike, 16,000 tweets, 50,000 new followers, and close to 60% of the survey respondents thought that Nike was the official sponsor of Olympics. And when it's all said and done, they spent $0 in sponsorship rights. What happened? Nike made a meaningful connection with people. I mean, yes, of course, we love Olympic athletes. They're cool, they're larger than life, they're like superhumans. But it's hard to connect with superhumans. It's hard to relate to them, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when we're sitting in front of our TV with Cheeto dust on our t-shirt, who we can relate to are people who are just like us.
Think back to the start of our talk when we asked if you would change seats. In that first minute, we lived our three human truths. People are lazy and hate change, perceptions can and do change constantly, and people connect with people. At first, nobody wanted to get up and change seats, but then perceptions shifted when we offered a little bit of a bribe, and then finally, everybody was willing to move for free because you connected on a personal level with Darren and the story of his grandfather.
And here's the real power in understanding these human truths, is that once we know them, we can use them to make connection with people quickly and effectively.
Need someone to embrace change? The key is ensuring that you're appealing to the emotional elephant.
Need to shift perception? Remember how easily our views can change with the right emotional trigger?
Need to persuade, stop drowning people in data, and start connecting on a human level.
So next time when we're trying to drive change, whether it's in your personal life, at work, in your community, remember today. Remember Rokia, the story of one little girl, was way more effective and drove way more donations than thousands and thousands of people full of data. Remember one simple number Ben just presented changed your perception about the orbit of Mars, and remember how you connected with me and willing to move seats for me free of charge when you heard about my grandfather.
The path to change is not through more slides or facts and figures. It is understanding and connecting with the elephant. Our emotional, our irrational, our beautifully human selves. The most powerful force for change is not logic, it's emotion. And now, you know how to use it. Thank you.